I traded in my wonderful Kia Niro plug-in hybrid for a Honda EV Prologue, and I hope I don't regret it. The Kia Niro was a 2020 plug-in hybrid EX, and it was just marvelous. It got good gas mileage up there around 40 or 50 when I had to use, the actual internal combustion engine. But most of the time driving around, the neighborhood and you go into the store, I was all EV. And I quickly realized that I could go all EV, except for those trips that we took, those long day trips or, long weekends. And then I would need to figure out how to charge. So there was some range anxiety, but after driving the Kia Niro for so many years, I was okay with it because I knew the reliability was good. Now, one of the things that prompted me to look at an EV, and right now we're in the middle of August 2025, is the federal tax credit for EV cars is expiring at the end of September. And I don't like to kind of have that kind of pressure, but I thought, this might be my chance to get a good EV at a price point that worked within my budget. So I set down some conditions. One, I was only going to look at vehicles that were eligible for the $7,500 federal tax credit. I needed a car that was as good or better than the features of my Kia Niro plug-in hybrid. I wanted it to be slightly larger with more cargo room, because that is one thing that we experienced with the Niro, is especially when we had 3 people and we were stuffing luggage in there and flopping down seats, and it could get kind of tight. I only wanted vehicles that had at least 250 miles of battery range and all-wheel drive. Now, not that all-wheel drive is all that great, but there are 2 people in this household, and one of them, my spouse, likes the comfort, the security when we do go to the snow of having all-wheel drive. And of course, I needed a vehicle that was priced in my comfort zone. So here is a list of all the EV cars that were kind of eligible for the tax credit. I didn't look at any trucks. Some of these I immediately eliminated because of the MSRP was just too high, like that Acura and the Cadillac Mystique, and some of them were too big. The Subaru Solterra, which seems to be a very fine car, but it had an EV range under 250, and so I decided to take that out. And of course, Tesla, never. When considering some of the cars to kind of narrow down, everything, the Chevy Equinox and the Chevy Blazer EV seem to be really, really good cars. The problem I had is the way they price them. The American car companies, they have all these packages, and it's kind of hard to know exactly what you're getting. You want one feature, you have to add it, and it clicks on a $3,000 package. And I was just, I don't like that. I just kind of I just don't have time to parse through all of that. Just give me a couple different levels of cars. So it came down to essentially 3. The Cadillac Optic, Sport all-wheel drive, the Honda Prologue Elite all-wheel drive, and the Kia EV6 all-wheel drive called the Wind. The Cadillac Optic is really nice. Got some super duper features, very comfortable, built on the GM Equinox platform. I had no real problems with it. The EV6 from Kia just does a great job, period. You just can't go wrong. They just know how to do EVs, and that is a real selling feature for me. Now, I initially stopped by and looked at a Prologue, and I opened up the back. I'm going, oh, this thing is like way too big. I can't do this big SUV thing. But from the outside, it doesn't look that big. And I'm thinking to myself, is this an optical illusion? Why does it look smaller as you're passing it on the road than when you open it up and sit in it? It's kind of like the TARDIS, small on the outside, but once you step inside, it's really big. Then I remembered Honda was producing this little car called the E-car in Japan and Europe. And I got some pictures of it, and I'm thinking, well, maybe I'm thinking that maybe the Honda HR-V, which is a smaller version, kind of looks like the Prologue, and this little E-car. And then when I compared the Prologue to the E-car, they were designing the Prologue when the E-car was in production, and the Prologue just looks like a grown-up version of the E-car. They kept all kind of the design language going on. I thought that was kind of interesting. So, of course, in my nature, I go through and I look at all of the specifics, you know, the range, the battery. I won't go through all of these different things. I will note that on the battery to range ratio, the Prologue has the lowest, meaning it takes more energy to get 1 mile than either the Optic or the EV Wind. And I think that's probably just because it's just not as aerodynamic and it's a little bit higher off the ground. You can see the length is 192 inches, close to the Optic, but you know, definitely bigger than the Wind. And the wheelbase is 121 inches, which is significant compared to the Optic or the Wind, and a ground clearance of 8.1 inches, and that was pretty high. I was kind of surprised. Most of the EVs, you know, are in the 6-inch range, so the 8-inch range, that's more in the kind of the Subaru, you know, going over snow and mud and rocks. But it all looked pretty good, and the build price that I calculated from the website is along the bottom. And then of course, you know, we have the credit that I was deducting, cash and trade-in. So I figured that was in my price range. Now, the Honda Prologue is my neighbor giving me the hands up. The Honda Prologue is built on the Chevy Blazer platform. So underneath here is a GM. It's a GM car, and you can see it. The exterior is all Honda, and the interior is all Honda. Quick walk around the Honda Prologue. This is the Elite trim, all-wheel drive, heated and ventilated seats. It is bigger than it looks from the outside. Seats are comfortable. The doors could open a little bit wider on the passenger side and, you know, the rear side, but overall it works in that regard. I do not have the sunshade open, but I'll show you a picture of that later. And the driver's side interior. One thing I did notice, I do wear hearing aids, and it's quieter. I used to get a lot of popping noises from the Kia, my Niro, and that has to do with wind pressure and little subtle changes. If you go over a bump, pop, 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 it kind of sounds like static electricity or something. Not with the Prologue. So I am still learning the shift lever there. But I really like the backup camera and the surround camera because just getting close to objects, I kind of like to know where I am. This is a little bit bigger vehicle. But it drives smooth. Nice and quiet. I'm also learning more about the one pedal driving. The Kia Niro had the paddle shifters on the back here, and those were kind of nice. When I think back on it and I use the paddle shifters, I don't know how much more battery from the regenerative braking that I gained from it, but they were fun to play with. And now this one pedal driving is a little bit different, but I'm starting to like it because truly it's one pedal. You're just only using the accelerator, and so when you lift your foot off the accelerator, that's kind of like applying the brake. So it's efficient. You're only moving your foot in one position. The heads-up display, I don't know if that's coming through on the camera or not. I've got it set that it also shows me the speed limit of the street, which I like. I try not to go fast, and so it kind of lets me know my speed, because in these quiet EVs you can get going really, really fast and not know it. The visibility is not quite as good as the Kia Niro. Not sure, bigger vehicle, bigger windows, but for some reason, just the way everything is placed in the back rear window, the visibility doesn't seem to be as good, but I'm getting used to it. The large infotainment system, with the Kia Niro, it was kind of built into the dashboard. That was nice. This kind of sticks up, but I'm getting used to it. It's not as interactive as the Kia Niro. It doesn't have as many sub-menus and things to look at and things of that nature. But most of that stuff you don't really use after a while. There's kind of a novelty, and then it kind of wears off. But it was nice to get into some of the settings of the Niro. I did like one of the chime alerts on the Niro was that if you were at a stoplight and someone pulled away, the lead car, and you hadn't moved, it chimes, "Hey, dork, someone's pulled away, get going." That was, unfortunately, that happened to me several times. There is another alert that told you when the temperature got below 38 degrees, and so you needed to be careful because freezing conditions might be upon you. And that was just kind of nice that it was cold outside. But the one thing I did not like about the Niro is that it had the speedometer reading in the upper right-hand corner, and the steering wheel always seemed to block it. This is nice. The heads-up display is right there, so we don't have any problems. And of course, the speedometer on this one is right in the middle. So overall, a nice driving experience. And the other thing, for those people who have hearing aids, like me, hearing aids can be very, very sensitive to changes in air pressure, little knocks, and you get these little pops in your ear. And it was disconcerting in the Niro because I don't know how to describe it except like static electricity. It would pop, 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 pop. Especially if you were on rough road. But that has not happened in the Honda Prologue. And I think probably because it's just a quieter vehicle, maybe more soundproofing, but I have not had the annoying pops in my ears when my hearing aids are in. So that's good. One of the things I like with the Prologue, which you thought was kind of goofy, but there's this big wide tray up there that does nothing but. For me, that's where I like to put stuff. And I didn't have that in the Niro. In some of the other configurations of the EVs, it's all, there's, you know, the gear selector, park, drive, reverse, and there's stuff up there. So I kind of just like the big flat area of nothing. And a much larger armrest, which I thought was interesting because I wasn't used to that. Usually we have to share. In the Niro, we were always sharing the armrest. Who wanted to put their arm on there because there wasn't enough room? Nice big storage bin for all the junk that I take around, the hand sanitizer, and big cargo area, the boot. And I show it here with that cargo cover because I really like the cargo cover. It keeps the groceries cool and people can't see inside what's inside there, because sometimes I am carrying photographic equipment, video equipment, and hiking stuff and skis, and so that way they're not kind of peering in. We do have the automatic lift gate, and there should be a little white circle that appears down below, and if you just click underneath that, or kick, I apologize, it will lift up on its own. Very nice and tall. I'm not banging my head. I did get the roller cover, which I really like. Helps keep the sun off of groceries. Keeps things a little bit cooler. The area is probably about 4 inches deeper and 4 inches wider than the Kia Niro, so I'm able to stuff more junk in there when I go to the dump or when we're going on trips. So that's a nice feature. I feel so uptown. Now, the second part of this household really was taken with this kind of tan leather interior contrasting with the charcoal. I went with a white vehicle because I kind of live in the valley and I got this thing about heat, and I just don't like to be hot. So I always like to have a white car. And the interior, though, that brown leather, or whatever they call it, is nice. It does pop out and stand, and easier to see things. There's just more light in the overall cabin. There is that big, large panoramic, sunroof thing, and I don't know if I'll ever use that. It is interesting that there is this little windscreen, kind of a mesh net that pops up. With the Niro, when we did have the sunroof open, it always made kind of a whistling noise when you went over about 20 miles per hour, so we'll see if that happens with the Prologue. Inside, not as many bells and whistles to kind of overwhelm people. It is nice. You get in, shows you the state of the battery charge. And I do like that the speedometer is in the center. The Kia Niro had the speedometer speed up in the upper right, and I couldn't always see it. I got a little circle around the heads-up display, and you can see my level 2 charger that I put in when I had the Kia Niro, and that reduced my charging time. The Kia Niro only had like a 8 kilowatt hour battery, from about 6 hours down to 2.5 hours. So I was kind of already prepared for an EV if that was the direction I went. The physical knobs for controlling, the climate system, HVAC, are nice. I kind of wish that the pictures, the emblems were larger, because sometimes if I don't have my glasses on, for us people that are farsighted, some of that stuff is kind of blurry and I don't know what I'm hitting. The infotainment screens are nice. You can get in and do a lot of things. It has Google built-in maps, which works well. The Elite trim has the full suite of safety features, which I like. Some people don't like all of that stuff, and the binging and the banging, and the chimes, but I do like it. It keeps me focused. And I particularly like the surround view with the camera, and the backup camera is very crisp and clear. So one thing that I did realize when I was driving, and the lane keep assist is activated, the lane keep assist, the lane centering isn't as aggressive in the Honda Prologue as it is in the Kia Niro. It still, kind of nudged me back to the center if I got too close to the line, and there's a few chimes and alerts. But the Niro was much more aggressive and kind of, get over there, get over there. The Prologue comes with kind of 3 different charging options. You can get all EV Go credits, you can get a credit to put in a level 2 wall charger, or you can get the portable charger and some EV Go credits. I went with the portable charger since I already had a wall charger and those credits. And when I picked it up, I was surprised. It has both 110 volt outlet plug and a 220. I didn't have that on the Niro. So that could be handy for people. So overall, a nice little package for everything in this Elite trim, with kind of the GM kind of stuff going on underneath the hood and some of the tech stuff. Some of the pluses that I was surprised at that I hadn't really paid any attention to: auto dimming side view mirrors. I had the auto dimming rear view mirror, which was nice at night, and big truck comes up on you and it's blinding you, it'll automatically dim it. That's going to happen here. The brake alert, it's probably too sensitive, but you get too close, get put on the brake or something. And that seems to happen more if you're doing one pedal driving, because you're not stepping on the brake, you're just releasing your foot from the accelerator. Hands-free cargo liftgate, that's nice. Google built-in apps, seems okay. That can also be a minus for some people. I don't really get involved with Apple CarPlay or Android Auto. I just kind of use what's in the car. I have enough problems having the phone connected, and it's either coming through my hearing aids or through the speakers, so I'm just fine with my Sirius XM music. Large storage bin between the 2 center seats, large flat tray for the phone, the glasses, and the notepad. Now, again, some people may not want that, but I do actually like it. It's more of a feature than I thought. 2-position rear seat. The bench seats can go back a little notch, not huge, just a little notch it seems like, or bring them into more of an upright position. And then there are the welcome lights. So there's a little light right underneath this mirror, and then one in the back. So when you approach the vehicle with your key in your pocket, all the lights come on. Now, the way our house is situated, oftentimes I am walking by the car a lot to take the trash out or something in that nature. So the car is always kind of, all the lights come on. That might be annoying, but I just have to remember to take the key out of my pocket, and that won't be an issue. Some of the minuses: the driver's seat does not seem to be as comfortable as the Niro. The Niro seemed to be a little bit longer in the thigh support. The Prologue has fewer chimes and alerts like lane change. If you want to make a lane change and there's a car there, the Prologue doesn't seem to do that, but maybe I haven't turned it on. And there was the temperature. If the outside temperature gets below 38 degrees in the Niro, it would say, hey, it might be snowing. I don't believe the Prologue has that. No driver-only climate control. It was kind of nice to be able to separate that out and or sync them. There's no sunglass overhead storage. You can go up there, slowly open, stick it in. And that was kind of nice. But because of this large panoramic roof and some of the controls, I guess they had to delete that. But with that large flat tray up front, it's good. I mean, I have left my glasses in the passenger seat, and I used to just throw a lot of stuff on the passenger seat, and my mother-in-law came in and sat on my glasses one time, so I always put them up top. But now I got a nice flat center tray. It is nice to be able to step out of the car easily and just stand up. That wasn't always the case with the Niro because it was so much lower. This has 8.1 inches of ground clearance, which is kind of in that Subaru, range. The Niro in some of the other EVs are 6 inches, and I believe also the seat may be a little bit taller. And that was more of a selling feature for me than I really thought about when it came to the Prologue, because just physically interacting with the vehicle, I felt good. I felt it was easy. It was easy to slip into it and easy to get out of the vehicle without a lot of extra effort, especially on those days when your knees hurt or your back hurts. No tire inflator kit. And, most of the EVs don't have a spare tire, kind of a little bit of an anxiety there. But I did have kind of a slow leak flat tire with the Niro, and I used that kit and it worked really well. I actually have a video, I'll post a link to it up here someplace on how to use a tire inflator kit. I can really see it working very well out in the middle of nowhere. That way you're not jacking up the car. Now, the Prologue has self-sealing tires. Okay. All right, so we'll kind of see how that works. Hopefully I'll never have another nail in the tire, but I have actually ordered a tire inflator kit just to have, because again, there's 2 people in this household and be driving the car, and that other person kind of wants some of that security of having something to be able to kind of fix a tire, or at least get it back going if you're up in the snow or on a dirt road out hiking. Another minus that I learned just the other day, the car is wider, and I used to take my garbage cans between the Niro and the post here for the carport, and I can't do that anymore. There's just not enough clearance, so I'll have to find a workaround solution to get the trash can out to the curb. But I'll do another video more on a long range test and charging and whatnot, but this is kind of my first impression after I've bought the car. Not everyone likes to buy cars. Some people like to lease them. That's okay. I just kind of tend to want to purchase a vehicle. And if you have any comments or questions that I might be able to answer, you may leave those down in the comment section, and I'll do my best to let you know what I have learned or research it for you. Otherwise, if you purchase an EV, maybe we will meet at a charging station somewhere on the road of life. Take care.